Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Duke, and welcome to The Takeaway. Always good to be joined by Alex Newman. Alex, we've had a lot of negative stories lately about education, but we've got a reasonably interesting one this time. We've got a group of parents who are so upset with the rabid sexualization of our kids in elementary school that they have proposed a walkout day, April 23rd, 2018. Let's walk out. Let's do a sex ed sit-out.
Yep, and so basically you have in cities across the country, even in some partners in Canada and Australia, so this has gone international now, you have parents who are going to be pulling their kids out of school for one day to protest the perversion and the so-called sex education that's being forced on these children. And there's a lot of interesting examples that they've highlighted of just stuff that I think would blow even the minds of liberal progressive parents would say, wait a minute, you're teaching this to my 6-year-old? So hopefully this will be drawing a lot of attention to some of the perversion and the nastiness that's being taught in our schools under the guise of sex education.
Can you talk a little bit further about who this group is and maybe how parents might participate if they're interested?
Sure. Well, this is a national coalition of parents, as I understand it, and some activists who've been involved in this, who are basically they put together a website and they said, hey, we're going to pull our kids out of school for one day. They do have a website online now. It's got a lot of resources for people. I think it's called Sex Ed Sit Out or something along those lines. You can find it in the article. And you have a lot of resources there, so it'll give you, cities where efforts are already being organized. If you're organizing one in a city that's not yet listed, you can submit your information there, and they can add it to the site. It'll give you a sample letter to send to your principal. They'll help you, put together press releases to get the local media involved. And so what these parents will do then, they're working together through this kind of national umbrella. But on the day of the sit-out, they're going to be holding local press conferences and trying to draw attention to some of the filth that's being pushed in the schools.
Yeah, and while I applaud their effort, it's always good when particularly public school moms and dads begin to wake up to the problems. You and I both know, Alex, that this isn't going to fix anything. I mean, think about the whole gun protests that we've recently seen. These orchestrated programs by the left, the walkout of school to end gun violence protest that was recently in Washington and all over the country. The problem with that is that guns aren't in the schools. So you have a big protest walkout about an issue, guns, and guns aren't in schools. Mom and Dad, I'm here to tell you, sex ed is in your schools. This is not an outside entity that's bringing in a gun one in every 100 million school days. This is something that's in every aspect of your kid's curriculum. This is no longer do we live in an age where kids would take sex ed for 2 weeks in health class their sophomore year in biology. That's not how it works. Thanks to things like Common Core, sex education, comprehensive sexuality reform is a part of every class in every subject, from kindergarten and preschool all the way through high school. The idea that if your kids were being mistreated with any particular subject, that you're going to take one day, you knew that your kids were being mistreated 5 days a week in government classrooms, you'd take them out. If they were being fed poisonous food, if the water was contaminated with lead, you wouldn't just protest one day and then send your kids back to that lead-filled water or that poisoned food. You'd yank them from those schools. How in the world can you acknowledge this level of sexual indoctrination and then protest one day and send them back to those schools? That's the tough point that has to be made.
Absolutely, Duke. And, I couldn't agree more with you. And I'm sure a lot of the parents involved in this understand that. But, on the bright side, hopefully this will help waking up parents who are just clueless, because I'm positive, I know for a fact, I talk to them all the time, that millions of parents around this country are still clueless about the filth that's being pushed in the schools.
But make no mistake about this, Mom and Dad, this is not just about sex. Sex is one tool to break down your kids' resistance to traditional values, to separate parents from their kids, to undo 2,000 years of Judeo-Christian history and morality. These ideas are being pushed by globalists who want to first break your kids down psychologically, socially, and sexually, divorce them from their parents and their parents' worldview, divorce them from faith and belief in God and morality, so that they can then reprogram to be good little citizens of the world. This is a big leap forward for them, and there's much more at stake here than just your kids being spared from smut and degenerate filth in their classrooms.
That's exactly right. And, we've talked a lot about the dumbing down, how, kids, every generation is getting dumber and dumber. This is deliberate. This is orchestrated. The illiteracy is just off the charts in the schools. This is a major problem. And these parents here have hit on one element of it. But, with exposing this, I hope, parents will get interested in the rest of the problems and we can start dealing with this.
Mom and Dad, the Sex Ed Sit Out. Check it out, please. Pull your kids out of school that day and consider pulling them out forever. Homeschool them. Find a better way. Alex Newman, thank you so much for this week's takeaway.